Welcome to Living Your Path. I am Cecile Ferry, a coach and astrologer. I'm here to guide you on how to live and work in alignment with your true self so you can find fulfillment and serenity. Hello, my beautiful people, and welcome to your coaching corner for this week. So I want to talk about being at home within ourselves. So that is not spoken about enough. And for the little story, that is what I've been really working on, totally in link with my astrological transits. So very quick astrological side note here, because I'm currently doing a lot of work in my fourth house, the house of home and foundation, which means also my emotional stability. And I am rebuilding really, really strongly, because what happened for me and like many of us is that we are taught from a young age to find our sense of self and to build our sense of self through external achievement, through getting married and buying a house and building a career and having all those things. And it does work to some extent, but that is not it, because then we get into a place of life where those things can sometimes get really shaky or get taken away from us, or they're just fully collapsing. And then we're like picking ourselves up and rebuilding. And I am in that phase, and maybe you are too. And there is never a late time for that. Like this is what I'm going through. I'm 46 and I'm rebuilding my own sense of self. And I think it's so paramount. And maybe you already have it, you just need to perfect it, and this episode will help you. Or maybe you also realize that you are in that process. And so that's today's aim, is I want to give you some tools, a bit of a structure on what I believe is the way to build that strong sense of self within yourself, to build that home within yourself. Because when you have that, then the world is your oyster. And if you like, I think it's the foundation to a successful life, because then it doesn't matter what happens around you, hail or shine. You have that place that you can come back to, that place that is there to begin with, where you are okay. And not only are you okay, but you're content and you are satisfied. And this is nobody else's responsibility to build for ourselves than ourselves. And so I'm going to give you some tools to do that. I believe building a strong sense of self and a home for yourself go through three different pillars. The first one is building physical safety and comfort. So I'm going to talk about the body. The second one is the nervous system safety on the mental and emotional level. And the third pillar is what I've called self-management and self-approval. Okay, so hopefully, you can listen to that and then think, okay, which of those things I've already kind of ticked and built for myself, and which are things I still need to work on. First of all, building that home within yourself through your physical body safety and your environment. I think this is like literally like when you say you want to feel at home within yourself, you need to feel that within the vehicle that you have, which is your body. Like Jim Rohn says, take care of your body because it's the only place you have to live. And I think we kind of take that for granted, but this is the place we actually live in. It's our body, and then what I'll call your immediate physical environment. So that means really learning to feel comfortable within your own space. So your home, does it feel like, I won't say a full sanctuary, but it must feel like a place where you can just drop, right? Especially after a long day. Do you have that? Do you feel comfy in your physical environment at home? The lighting, the ambience, the temperature, the space, do you feel cozy? It's really, really important, especially in the spaces that are yours, like your bedroom, the places where you can just like exhale after a long day or a long week, So really important to nurture that sense of physical environment that is where you feel held, really, you feel cushioned. And then in your body, it's really important to have regular sleep rhythm, because you cannot build that home within yourself if it's kind of all over the shop. Nourishing your body, that's how you look after it. And feeling at home with your body sensations, really building that kind of trust within your body, and know that it's not going to abandon you, it's not betraying you. If it's sending some sensations, it's a message. But really building that connection with your own body. The second pillar I want to talk about is building that nervous system safety. And that's probably sometimes the hardest part, right? Because they're not teaching you that. But yeah, without that, you really can't. Like, you can have a beautiful space, but if your mind and your nervous systems are not at peace, you're not going to drop. You're not going to relax within that environment. So what does that mean, building a home within yourself from a nervous system point of view? I believe it means, number one, feeling good, feeling at ease alone, in your own company, without having the need to feel that with some external stimulus or distraction or people, who are going to sort of fill that gap, right? So I like the idea of feeling self-sufficient in my little bubble myself as I go through my days. And I haven't always been like that. I have been very dependent before on like social catch-ups and hearing from people, like having that external focus. So I think it's really important to like your own company and to be able at least to be neutral, if not to actually enjoy being with yourself. I think it's this number one in that system. And like I remember being in a hot spring place recently that had a silent zone where there was no talking. And you'll be surprised how many people cannot do that. They feel the need to talk because being with themselves, it's such a thing that they're not used to. So that's the first thing, being good with being by yourself and enjoying that. And secondly, having generally some positive thoughts, some peaceful thoughts, right? Because what goes on in your mind is going to really affect how stable you feel. So especially watching your self-talk, those narratives, especially very negative self-talk, or being hijacked by ongoing worries and like scanning with everything that could go wrong or what's going on in that sort of, hyper vigilance, that monitoring, really kind of cleansing our thoughts and working on all the junk that's going on up there. Because with that, we will not feel at home within ourselves. We're not going to build that strong sense of self if we're constantly fluttering away and feeling fragile mentally and at the mercy of anything happening that would just pull us off center. And what I will put in the same category is being bombarded by outside requests that come through, messages or notification, and I feel that very strongly. And sometimes we have the urge to we just stop everything we're doing to check that text that come through, right? That is not a nervous system that is really strongly anchoring in yourself. We get pulled. And we feel that little flutter of dopamine or adrenaline, but that is not good for our sense of self. So we cannot allow ourselves to be pulled off center by technology, by, requests from other people like that. And we need to try to protect those things so that we can be present and we can be centered on ourselves, what matter goes on. I think that's the ultimate goal. When you get towards really building that sense of self, you will be able to kind of watch, like in slow motion, from a distance as something is happening outside. And it could even be like in the world, we're seeing a lot of disastrous events happening. And you're not denying it, you're not blocking it, but you can be with that and still sense that sense of self that is strong as a rock. And I think that's an amazing feeling where, whatever, no matter what goes on around you, especially if things that are going on are mad around you, you're able to internally check in and realize you are not that and you are okay right now. I think that is such an important skill to build in the world that we live in. And on to the third pillar now, the self-management and self-approval. So the number one thing here is to trust yourself and to build that self-trust muscle if it's not there in the first place. Like knowing what you like and making your own decisions. Basically, no outsourcing to other people, other places, getting everyone's opinions and judgment, including going to ChatGPT to make your decisions. Like ChatGPT has terrible judgment. Use it as a tool to support your thinking, but don't delegate. And I think we can be really victim to that because we are afraid to make the wrong call, right? And then we just have that external focus again. And that's when we're not building that strong sense of self. So believe that you are running your own show. Make your own decisions and then don't wait for validation, for external feedback. It may come and whatever comes, but you are choosing for yourself and you're backing yourself up. I think if you do one thing in building a home for yourself, it's that one, definitely. And then another one is to live in your own integrity. So by that I mean knowing your values. I think being at home within yourself is knowing kind of what you stand for and what you need to live, right? What you will allow, what you will tolerate, and what you will not, and what makes you feel really yourself. So being clear on your values and sticking by them and making decisions according to them. And likewise, put that integrity towards yourself. Do what you say you will do. Keep your promises to yourself. Don't let yourself down. Be the first person that you will actually serve and honor. Making appointments with yourself kind of thing. And have that relationship with yourself or respect, of trust, of love and care, really. So I put all of that under that self-management. It's like you have that relationship with that person that is yourself and have that congruence. So those values or who you are, it doesn't matter which part of your life, you are the same person, right? That home is unified. And also that means, and I think that's still really, really a hard thing to do, not kicking yourself, not shaming yourself when you stuff up, when you struggle, when you've said the wrong thing, when you haven't behaved to the standard that you would normally have, because that's part of life, right? We all do that. So I think building a strong sense of self is also making room for that and accepting the parts of us that we're not the most proud of. Because it's not all rosy in there, we're not going to be in la la land saying we're building the most perfect personality here. But it's being able to be with all of that. Under that self-management, I would also include financial safety. It's not a must-have, but I think for women, it's really important and impacts your nervous system as well. For me, I think it's really important to feel strong and reliable on myself financially. That's part of my foundation, right? Because I feel like if I can support myself, if I can be okay financially, and also if I can be employable, because that's how I get support, material support for myself, or I can deliver value, sell products and make money through them. For me, this is part of building a strong sense of self because we need money to survive in the world, right? So I wanted to include that here. And also as part of that self-management, I think it's critical to listen to our intuition, to our desires, and as in allowing that voice to come through. I talked about shushing a little bit the internal dialogue that's not helpful, but building a strong sense of self means listening, means, especially when we're by ourselves and we're comfortable alone, we listen. And that, I guarantee you, every single time you create that space and you listen, you will hear the voice, the deep down voice, the deep inner voice of you. And she will speak and saying, this is what I want. This is what I need. This is what I long for. You don't have to act on it. You don't have to make it happen in order to build that strong sense of self. But I think the strong sense of self will be there because you allow it, because you hear it and you acknowledge it, being in touch with that and listening to your moods, to your feelings, when something feels off or when you're just feeling like you need more rest, for instance. And also letting yourself feel your feelings and process things. So again, being on your own helps with that. And having time for that and being able to self-regulate. I think that is a really important part of that emotional self-management. And I think overall that means that you need to feel that your needs matter, that you matter as a person, and that you treat yourself with that level of respect and focus, really. Because you have a life to live and it's your own. It's your lifetime. It's your opportunity to shape it, to take what you're being given and your gifts and to build the life that you want. And so I think it's important to feel that wholeness in you, even if you're a work in progress, even if you're not where you want to be, you may be in transition, like so many of us are like that. Like life is permanent evolution, right? But really holding yourself in that place. And to finish that off, I think I have to mention boundaries, because you can't just build a home within yourself and expect it to hold by itself. Unfortunately, you're going to have to defend those boundaries because they're important to protect your home. And that includes setting them up, right? They're like kind of the walls, if you like, of your inner home. And then you need to be able to speak them out and make them happen without crumbling inside, right? There's no point having a beautiful boundary, but when you put it in place, you feel like shit. That does not work. You need to be able to still feel good about yourself, to not be destabilized because you've said no to someone, because you haven't given them what they expect, right? And that's when you feel that strongest sense of self, because you're not betraying yourself and you know that you matter as well. So that's those three pillars, really, that physical body, safety and environment, and maybe that's where you need to make some tweaks. Then the nervous system place where you need to learn to be okay being alone and not like having that dependency on things outside of ourselves to make us feel good, right? And all of that self-management, especially emotionally, and taking responsibility and having that integrity and just being like, I want to outsource my judgment. And I want to say, you get to that place when you realize you no longer to live your inner home, your inner space, your self kind of place, because we can typically live it not just physically, but by tuning out of our bodies and the likes, but typically things like overthinking, being anxious, panicking. These are signs that we have a need to leave where we are because it doesn't feel safe, or reaching for external stimulation, not being able to sit still at home on the weekend, or, like me when I really needed social interactions and catch-ups, right? So I'm not saying we are building a place that is going to be a fortress. where we are going to be cutting ourselves off or not needing anyone, or we're going to isolate. Like, it's not about that. It's not about defending yourself versus the world or escaping, by like retreating in your little bubble and just living kind of hidden from the world. Absolutely not. And it's also not about being in a place where there is never any doubt or there is always clarity. No, that is part of life. But as I said, like, it won't prevent you from staying stable. Okay, so this is about building internal stability first. And I think we all need to have that in our lives. So start there, see whether you need more the physical side, you need the nervous system side, or you need the emotional management side of things, or all of the above. And this is something I can help you with in coaching. So check out my show note on my website. You can book a call and we can talk about, which part of your life are you currently feeling like you need those stable foundations and how to go about that. So I hope you've enjoyed this week's episode and really think about building that safe space within yourself that you can always come back to. That feels nice, whatever that is for you, tune into the feelings of that place. What does it feel like? What does it have? Because this will give you an idea of really what it is that you need. And that's very different from one person to the other. But this is paramount. I think this is like self-management 101 that we should teach every kid at school. But no, somehow the world is teaching you that you have to build a great career in order to feel all those things. And guess what? We know it doesn't work that way. It starts inwards. So I hope you find this informative. If it's brought you value, I would be very grateful if you could please share this episode with one friend, who is on that journey too and would really benefit from the guidance. And also, if you could just review the podcast, just tap on the stars, that will really help other people finding it. Thank you so much, everyone. I hope you have a beautiful rest of the week, and I will talk to you in the next Coaching Corner episode. Bye for now.